Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Throne of Seal episode number 184 based on novel. So let's start. The light flashed again, with Long Houchen in the center. The gleams under everyone's feet also became brighter. Space was cut open, and then everyone was gone without a trace. Long Xingyu was also the sealed divine knight. Of course, he knew clearly that what Long Houchen just did was very difficult. The domain of Blink could only strengthen their connection. But the capability to transport together all at once was Long Houchen's power. It was the power to warp across space while carrying 9 other comrades. Even with coordinate circumstances, it was too risky. The Knight of Starry Skies seal, Long Haoyu, still did not dare to do so. Long Houchen was not afraid of nature. The seal of God of Eternal and Creativity's throne possessed the ability to travel through space. Additionally, his current practice as well as the mastery of his domain had reached a new level. All into the space after turbulence, Long Houchen's body immediately sent out a ring of bright white jade luster. That bright white shade enveloped all bodies. No impact, just a few breaths of time, they had once again traveled through space and arrived inside of Haoyu. There was a flash of white light. At the same time, Long Houchen and his comrades were separated from the space's shuttle. Even though they were prepared, they were still surprised when they saw what was happening. Everywhere they looked, there were dead creatures, not just on the ground, but also in the air. It was as if the entire space had been filled with undead creatures. Haoyu, this time, did not evolve in the cave, but quietly crept above a hill. Strong purple and golden lights on its body faintly discernibly flashed. Any undead creature that came within 100 meters of its body would instantly be turned into a purple and golden flame, and soon there was nothing left to burn. The sudden appearance of Long Houchen and his comrades, altogether 10 people, naturally attracted the attention of the undead. At first, there were only undead creatures that attacked them. At least 1,000 flying devil's puppets were spitting dark green crescent lights. At this time, there were attacks from all sides. Although there weren't any king-level strong creatures, there were 4 or 5 rank undead creatures. And they had only just arrived. Haoyu attack had not yet fully launched. Long Houchen lifted his left hand. A layer of colorful golden light that soon turned into a huge curtain of light took away everyone, including Haoyu. A green ray of the crescent moon's light bombarded the 7 colors light greatly, and no trace of any ripple appeared. The purple and golden light that flashed from Haoyu's body dimmed for a few minutes. Then, Long Houchen received its fluctuated state of mind. Because of Long Houchen and the others' arrival, it wholeheartedly wanted to break through the bottleneck. Initially, Haoyu could suppress its breakthrough, and it would have not been so urgent. But after devouring the sapling of the Tree of Destruction, its power reached a critical point in an instant. Its strength could no longer contain the breakthrough. Haoyu's message to Long Houchen was simple: this breakthrough would take a long time. Haoyu did not say anything more, as it trusted Long Houchen completely. Although the attacks of the flying devil's puppets were numerous, they were nothing in front of the lunar shield. Long Houchen had been in the process of merging with the throne after passing the tests for the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation. He had come here immediately. He was still holding the great golden sword with an 8 colors glow. At this moment, he smiled at his companions and said, "I would like to introduce my friend to you." While he was speaking, he lifted the swords of kings, and a flash of golden light came out and 12 wings spread wide. Yating, in human form, appeared in front of everyone. They all looked at her and couldn't help but became stupefied, as they had never seen a woman this stunning before. Yating had inherited the body of the moon goddess. Plus, her qualities such as complexion and personality were not a bit less beautiful than those of Kia. When Kia saw her, she looked slightly confused and then looked at Long Houchen puzzled. But she had no doubts. Emotionally, Kia wholeheartedly trusted Long Houchen. They couldn't love anyone else. Long Houchen took Kia's hand and said to Yating, "You still haven't seen your sister-in-law." Yating smiled, bowed to Kia, and said, "How do you do? I am Long Yating." Everyone looked at them with embarrassment. Lin Xin could not help but spoke in Sai Martian's ear, "Eldest brother is so bold to come back and bring a girl to greet Deputy's head directly." Sai Martian nodded with full agreement. "He's better than us like always." Chen Yinga burst out a laugh and said, "You two talk nonsense. Be careful, Kia might pick up on you guys. Is the eldest brother that kind of person?" Long Yating. Long Yating. Sounds a little familiar. Kia at this time was looking at the stunning woman in front of her with a surprised face. You are. Outside, the army of the undead was pushing the border. Long Houchen did not want her to guess any longer. He smiled. It's Yating. When the god of devils killed me, her elemental body was broken, and only a trace of her soul was attached to the sword of life and creation. When I was being tested by the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation, the sword of life and creation was broken. Her present form is from the moon goddess domain of eternity. This body of Yating originally had a dark attribute, so I changed it with my blood. My blood is flowing inside her body, then I let her follow my surname. Now I have one more sister. Everyone was suddenly enlightened. So, Long Yating was actually the element elf Yating. Chen Yinga said with an envious face, Yating, your wings are truly beautiful. Long Houchen said, Yating, Lin Xin, bring it out. The undead creatures kept increasing, and their ranged attacks focused on the lunar shield. Long Houchen's energy was consumed rapidly. Lin Xin and Yating nodded at the same time. Lin Xin raised with his right hand and lit up a clump of orange light. Then her eyes, full of orange light, turned into a huge staff as long as 2 meters. The fiery red stone at the top of the staff was the size of a human head. It looked less like a staff and more like a wand. This staff had an imperious name, the Fire of Immortals Dragon. Lin Xin looked very eye-catching. He was wearing a golden-red gradient of the sacred fire of praise and holding the fire of the immortal dragon. Of all the fire mags in the world, perhaps, none could match him in terms of their weapon. 2 pieces of immortal weapons is equivalent to 2 pieces of the imperial weapons. Holding the fire of the immortal dragon high in the air, Lin Xin casted spells continuously. His speed was very fast with a special rhythm. The glowing red light from the fire of immortal dragon was at its peak. Inside the 7 colors light that covered the entire place was a flaming red color. The world of Hao Yu was black and red. Although Lin Xin's chanting was under the lunar shield's protection, as the spell continued, the fiery element began to rise from the cracks in the ground where lava flowed. All of a sudden, several low-rank undead creatures immediately fell into the magma and turned into ashes. While Lin Xin was chanting spells, Yating also started to attack. When Yating was still a light element elf, she relied on magic entirely. Now that she was the queen of light elves, her domain determined the direction of her power. A finger from her right hand was pointing forward, and a golden flame of 8 colors rose up all over her body. In a flash, it went out of the protection area of the lunar shield. A huge golden sword appeared in front of her, and its size inflated sharply against the wind, growing to a length measure of 1,000 meters. Yating's both hands formed a circle, the void golden sword swept across. Suddenly, the sky full of undead creatures became clear. So strong. Maxian was taken aback. Not only him, but also others who were watching this scene were also dumbfounded. The power of the attack that Yating unleashed was more superior than them at this point, even though Yating didn't have any equipment. Of course, they didn't know that Yating's ability was somewhat similar to that of Qiu Yonghao, the master of the warrior temple. She did not need any assistance of weapons. Those lower ranks undead creatures could not withstand the Sword of Kings. Yating placed her hands in front of her chest, constantly changing gestures. The Sword of Kings was already crisscrossing in the sky, abundantly sweeping in all directions following the order of her gestures. With each stroke of the sword, thousands of undead turned into flying ash. The pressure against the lunar shield was greatly reduced within a very short time. Sister Yating, leave me some. Lin Xin spoke with an anxious voice. His spell was completed. Only the top of Lin Xin's head could be seen. There was a great round of fierce Sunday. Wasn't this the Holy Sun spell made by his grandfather? However, Lin Xin and Lin Chen were different. His round of fierce sun over his head was blue, with a blue flame at its core. At this moment, even the fire of the immortal dragon had become the same blue color under the rendering of this flame. The blazing sun rose slowly. It was getting bigger and bigger. It was only a moment before it was 10 times the size of Lin Chen's spell. The temperature inside the lunar shield increased rapidly that Maxian, who was closest to him, smelled burned. Without waiting for others to step away, Lin Xin stepped out, just like Yating before, out of the cover. The difference was that he was above the shield, not in front of it. A sneer appeared at the corners of Lin Xin's mouth. You don't have a son in this world, so I will give you one. As he spoke, the fire of the immortal dragon pointed up. All of a sudden, the great sun rose from the sky. During the ascent, a blue pillar of fire fell from the sky and enveloped Lin Xin. Within the blue glow of the holy sun, all the cracks in the magma burst out in an instant and spewed out huge amounts of magma within a radius of dozens of miles. It became a sea of fire immediately. Maxian was surprised and said, "Why did Yao brother disappear? He couldn't possibly play with fire and get burned by the flame, right?" Han Yu grinned and said, "You should wish him something better. Lin Xin also understands the domain. And he's in the imitation domain for me. This holy sun spell is indeed magical. Grandpa Lin would be proud of him if he knew that he carries on the spell that he studied before." The eruption of magma immediately caused a lot of undead creatures to panic. Even the 6th and 7th rank undead creatures wouldn't let magma fall on them. For a moment, the pace of their attack slowed down. When that magma erupted, the concentration of fire in the air rose sharply. Around Lin Xin's head, the sun began to shrink in circles, and the light of the sun became even hotter. Mags excelled at using the power of heaven and earth. Sorcerers had domains that could give terrifying attacks in a battlefield with numerous enemies. Lin Xin's attack began. A seemingly small blue Mars began to fly out of the holy sun. These Mars were small when they first appeared, but as they flew, they rapidly absorbed fire element from the air and grew in size at an alarming rate. When they hit the ground or the air, they turned into meter-wide fireballs. It was the holy sun spell of meteor shower of flames. A terrifying roar began to break out in the black and red world, and in the deafening roar, great amounts of the undead creatures fell off like wheat being reaped. Yating completely wiped out all the undead creatures nearby, but Lin Xin's attack advanced a lot further. Each flame meteor that fell from the sky could explode a huge piece of land with a diameter of 100 meters, and there was more magma that poured out from the ground. It seemed as if Lin Xin's meteor shower of flames were endless. In the frenzied bombardment, the hill where Long Haochen and others were located at gradually turned into an island in a sea of fire. Long Haochen felt much more confident seeing Lin Xin and Yating bursting out such fighting power. In the Light Dawn Demon Hunter group, the strong and powerful Long Haochen was not alone. But he also knew that the battle had just begun and that the truly powerful undead had yet to come, such as the Witch King, who had summoned a dragon's corpse. Looking through the flames and further away, Long Haochen's heart suddenly sank. Under the attack of Lin Xin and Yating, the undead creatures were decreasing at an alarming rate. But in the distance, more dead creatures were coming this way. It was overwhelming. Can it be that, because of Hao Yu's evolution, all the undead creatures are transferred to this world? He looked back at Hao Yu. At this time, it crept there like a statue. Purple and gold scales covered its whole body. 6 big heads entwined together. One could feel a special kind of peace by looking at it. "My dear brother, no matter how hard it is, I will take care of you and will never let your 6 heads evolution be interrupted." At this time, a pressure appeared in the distance. This pressure was not from one direction, but from all sides at the same time. Lin Xin's holy sun that was uniquely bright before, immediately dimmed down in front of this terrifying pressure. Even the domain of the holy sun, which he had just comprehended, could not cope with this pressure, and he had to break off the attack and fall back under the protection of the lunar shield. Compared with Lin Xin, Yating's practice level was a lot stronger. Looked far away into the distance, the Sword of Kings returned high up in the air. Here it comes. The real enemy finally appeared. The black sky changed with the terrifying breath and gradually became indistinct grey. A great oppressive feeling made the whole space even twisted slightly. In the distance, the army of undead creatures that had been advancing suddenly stopped. Even the flying undead creatures that soared through the air quickly fell back to the ground. They were kneeling, prostrate on the ground reverently. And from different directions, 9 lights' shadow appeared. Long Haochen's eyes narrowed. "Yating, get back here." Long Yating's body flashed, and the Sword of Kings returned to her as she fell back under the lunar shield's protection. Long Haochen murmured, 9 groups of light, but 10 groups of auras. The weakest of them had more than 200,000 spiritual powers. I'm afraid that the strongest has a psychic power of about 700,000. These guys must be the master of this world of Hao Yu. They must also have sensed that Hao Yu was at the end of its evolution, this time in full force. Though Long Haochen's voice was not loud, every one of his comrades heard it clearly, yet no one looked nervous at all. 10 strong undead creatures with their practice level altogether more than 20,000, which already surpassed them. Moreover, this world was a world of the undead. To recover their spiritual strength could cause a big trouble. But were they afraid? Back when they helped Long Houchen out of the Eternal Tower, they had no fear in their hearts. The enemy was strong, but they had confidence in themselves. And they even had more faith in Long Houchen. He was a sealed divine knight of glory and leadership. With the approval of the imperial weapon, they strongly believed that they would be able to hold on until the moment of success, no matter how strong the enemy was. The 9 figures gradually became clearer. Long Houchen took a glance and saw the Witch King that came to disturb the previous evolution of Hao Yu. Though he was still invisible, the aura of Witch King seemed to get stronger. She suspended in midair, and there seemed to be a myriad of moaning spirits around her. Even though her aura was so strong, among 9 figures, the Witch King could not even rank in the top 3. Long Houchen glanced at the Witch King. Then he landed in front of a vague shadow, where 2 powerful auras combined together. The first thing that could be seen was a special bone dragon. Its color was a strange mix of blue and white. The bone of this dragon was white, but it was covered with a bright blue color. A tough skeleton with a huge pair of wings. The aura of the bone dragon was dark and intense, spreading in circles. The eyes of the bone dragon glowed with a pale blue flame. There was a man shrouded in black armor on the dragon's back. This man's height was more than 2.5 meters. He sat there quietly while holding an épée longer than his height in his right hand. The épée glowed with a brilliant dark purple light. It was his aura that made Long Houchen look grave. This was not just an ordinary knight with Bone Dragon as his ride, but a knight riding on the Bone Dragon King. The Bone Dragon King alone had a power of over 300,000. Like Long Houchen had, this man's spirit power might be even more than 700,000. In addition to him and the Witch King, other undead creatures were also from the superior race. One was the Skeleton King, who was over 30 meters tall with a body that was made of flashing white jade. Another was the Cave Spider King, who had a 20 meters black and purple body with spots of grey and 6 pairs of long stranded legs. Next was the Zombie King, who was 5 meters tall and had a dull golden glow. He was godless and stiff-limbed. The fourth was the King of Loathe, who was at least hundreds of meters tall, largest among all 10. His waist was wider than the length of his height, so he was fat and pale. The fifth was the King of Blame, who had a body entirely composed of dark green mist that unceasingly shrieked. The sixth was the Shadow King, who had a body completely black and elusive like a shadow. It was almost impossible to see his 5 features. The seventh was the King of Hell's Flame, who was 100 meters tall. He was thinner but looked stronger than the King of Loathe. His whole body was made of shining purple stones. Including the knight on the Bone Dragon, the Light Dawn Demon Hunter group was facing with the 10 strongest sovereign kings. In the vast grey sky, the 10 sovereign kings slowly approached nearby. Beneath them were endless different races of the undead creatures' armies. Endless soldiers were marching on. Why? Why all of you want to protect the Austin and Griffin's evolution? Do you not know that it is the symbol of ruin and destruction? Get out of the way, powerful men from another world. Otherwise, today will be your last day. I am the Knight of Judgment. My words represent all of the 10 sovereign kings' opinions. In a flash of light, Long Houchen's holy armor turned into a holy unicorn. He rode on the unicorn's back and looked at the Knight of Judgment. He coldly said, "I don't know what you are talking about. Hao Yu is my partner, my brother. If you wish to interrupt its evolution, then you're my enemy." The Knight of Judgment's eyes were violently throbbing with a dark purple flame. The auras of the other 9 sovereign kings suddenly became stronger. Heavy oppression came from them continuously as they roared. They had already witnessed Lin Xin and Yating's strengths in this world before. Otherwise, the Knight of Judgment couldn't have referred to them as the powerful men. They knew that numerous amount of low-rank undead creatures had no effect against them. Only they could overcome these powerful group of people. Long Houchen said with a deep voice, "Wen Jiao, Du and Yi, you two stay by Hao Yu's side. Beware of any other undead creatures' attacks. Others look out for the enemy here. The Knight of Judgment is mine. Don't try to fight the opponent. Just try to stall for time while keeping yourself safe as long as possible. All we have to do is give Hao Yu some time to finish the evolution." The Light Dawn Demon Hunter group plus Yating were 11 people in total. Without Yang Wenjiao and Du and Yi, there were 9 people left. Nevertheless, there was still a huge gap between their levels. Even though the power of the Light Dawn Demon Hunter group was superior, the overall strength of the enemy was too high. Long Houchen also did not want any collateral attacks, so they had to stay apart in the battlefield. A silver glow appeared at the feet of all members. It was the domain of Blink. Due to the interlink between Spirit and the domain of Blink, Long Houchen was assured that his teammates would be safe. Just like how the 10 sovereign kings knew that the lower-rank undead creatures were not a threat to him, Long Houchen also knew that their defense alone would not last that long if they let the opponents attack. Not everyone in the Light Dawn Demon Hunter group was good at defense, so enlarging the battlefield was the only way to distribute the firepower. Long Houchen's opponents were the Knight of Judgment and the Bone Dragon King. These two powerful kings were considered as the backbone of the 10 sovereign kings. Their spiritual strengths combined together could almost reach 1,000,000. Though a great pressure would fall on Long Houchen, this might be the best opportunity for him to test his compatibility with the divine throne of eternity and creation. After all, without an opponent this strong, how could he bring out his full potential? As Long Houchen flew out, the Holy Unicorn was still there and had not changed back to the Holy Shield yet. Its glistening wings spread out and its horn covered with a soft 7 colors glow. The Holy Unicorn kept making weird noises as if it was singing. Though, the singing was not as clear as the sacred dragon's magic. After 7 seconds, the Holy Unicorn transformed into 7 colors holy light and tried to catch up with Long Houchen as he was about to face the enemy. The Holy Unicorn vanished and turned into a necklace of glittering colorful glow around Long Houchen's neck. Pure light elements spread throughout his whole body. He had fully leveled up. As Long Houchen's power grew stronger, the Holy Unicorn could only help him a little. If he were to become an armor or weapon, he would no longer be the best option for Long Houchen. It used its shape to turn into a necklace to increase Long Houchen's power. The Holy Unicorn was in the 9th stage, which was equivalent to an imperial weapon. The Holy Unicorn also derived its own domain when Long Houchen got his divine throne of eternity and creation. The Holy Domain transformed all attributes into divine light. It might seem like a simple transmutation ability, but the domain consumption of Holy Unicorns was very minimal, and in this light-deficient world, it was extremely important. As a result, when the Holy Unicorn became a necklace and it exuded the power of the Holy Domain, Long Houchen's face was full of surprises. As the Knight of Judgment watched the enemies scattering to each of the 10 sovereign kings, he knew there was no point in negotiating. Only by killing these enemies from the other world could he stop the terrifying Austin and Griffin from evolving. Long Houchen's 6 wings that flapped behind him flashed golden light stronger than before due to the power of the Holy Unicorn's necklace. Along with his handsome face, he looked remarkable. But when the Knight of Judgment saw him advancing towards him, the fire of soul leaped in his eyes, with an aura of disdain. Since his practice level was the strongest, he could sense that Haoyu's evolution would be done in no time. However, he could not rest assured yet because if the process was interrupted for 1 second before the evolution, it could still be completely destroyed. The Bone Dragon King roared and spat an ice blue spit straight to Long Houchen. As the Bone Dragon King and the Knight of Judgment communicated via their feelings, the Bone Dragon King knew that Long Houchen still had not yet reached a level 9 of rank 4, which was not much higher than the Bone Dragon King. So, if speaking about body alone, the Bone Dragon King was obviously the superior one. In front of the Bone Dragon King's breath, Long Houchen did not dodge. Instead, he raised the lunar shield with his left hand, which then flashed 7 colors light and turned to a 2-meter shield that protected Long Houchen's body entirely. The ice blue breath bombarded the 7 colors lunar shield, and suddenly a circle of ice blue fog broke out around Long Houchen's body. The temperature dropped sharply. There was a lot of ice in the air. Even the lunar shield in Long Houchen's hand was covered with a layer of crystal blue ice. A powerful combination of dark and ice spells. This was the Bone Dragon King's talent magic. The moon goddess, Cece, could not do better compared to the Bone Dragon King's power. The Bone Dragon King spat again as its huge body rushed towards Long Houchen. At the same time, the Knight of Judgment also drew out his great purple and black sword. Waves of black mist surged up into a hideous ghostly face behind him, and suddenly a terrifying weight burst, and all the space around Long Houchen turned to a piteous hissing of darkness. The domain of light god let out a golden glow that diffused from Long Houchen. The pure light element immediately dispelled the darkness around his body. At the same time, a layer of bright white glow from Long Houchen's body mixed with light god's 7 colors glow and went directly towards the Knight of Judgment and the Bone Dragon King. The 2 kings of this world, the Knight of Judgment of the dead and the Bone Dragon King, were slightly startled when the bright white light appeared, because they felt an indescribable fear. The fire of my own soul seems to be under a great threat. What's this aura? The Knight of Judgment also did not just stand still. He pointed the great sword in his hand to the air and released his own domain. The black and purple glow diffused and enveloped him and the Bone Dragon King. The two domains collided violently in the air. Hiss, there was a great deal of mist in the air. Though not colliding, it seemed like fire and ice were fighting with each other. In a distance, the black and purple glow mixed with 7 colors golden fog rose. The black and purple glow was suppressed by the 7 colors golden light. The amount of black and purple glow that was consumed was 3 times more than that of the 7 colors golden light. Domain repression. When light and darkness confront, it should be equal. And since the Knight of Judgment's practice level was higher than that of Long Houchen, he never thought that he would lose in domain collision. The fact that his domain was suppressed by that of Long Houchen meant that Long Houchen's domain's power was much higher than his domain's power. But Long Houchen was still not at ease. The domain of Light God was far superior than the Knight of Judgment's dark domain. But again, Long Houchen was substantially inferior in practice level. The Knight of Judgment was level 9 of rank 7. The first and strongest in this world. The Knight of Judgment's domain was a level inferior to Long Houchen's domain of Light God. But with the Knight of Judgment's practice level, he was 3 levels superior than Long Houchen overall. Therefore, Long Houchen did not take the collision of domains as his advantage. Also, the Knight of Judgment was riding the Bone Dragon King with the same practice level. Roar, 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 the Bone Dragon King growled and spat out 3 ice blue spit at the same time, not at Long Houchen, but in the air. Ice blue rays shot from each of his spit and connected the fulcrum formed by his 3 breaths. Then, Long Houchen's body suddenly felt extremely chilled. In the middle of the ice blue triangle, a dark blue and black hole appeared. The blue color flickered a little, and the next moment, a dark blue light as big as an arm was shot towards Long Houchen's chest. A domain skill. This was the skill of the Bone Dragon King's domain. Long Houchen did not waste any time. He released a layer of the silver-white glow of light from his body. An aura that towered into a column of white light suddenly burst out from his body. Then, in the void, an intense flame of 7 colors light spewed out from the bright white column of light. The flame contracted rapidly in the air, and when it touched the Bone Dragon King's domain's ice blue ray, the ice blue ray shrunk to the same size as before. Boom! Lightning flashed all over the sky. The Bone Dragon King's ice blue triangle broke instantly, and the colorful light in the air turned into layers of 7 colors luster and spread out. At the same time as the luster of white gems light column appeared, the area of Long Houchen's domain of Light God suddenly blazed, and the magnitude of his domain was overwhelming. The Knight of Judgment, who was ready to attack, was surprised and had to force his domain to fight against Long Houchen's domain again. A huge glittering white throne appeared in the void and released a magnificent 9 colors light. There were many tiny relief sculptures everywhere on the back of the throne which gave off an indescribable aesthetic feeling. On top of the throne were the sun, the moon, and the stars. In the middle were birds and animals connected to the seat. It was a scene of nature. Along with the throne's pair of armrests was the statue of the sacred dragon and the 12-winged angels. As soon as the throne appeared, a circle of 9-color glow released. The undead creatures below were still too far away and did not get affected directly. However, when it appeared, the black and red world seemed to be purified and the air became much cleaner. Long Houchen's body was suspended in front of the throne. This was the first time he had invoked the power of the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation. It was a wonderful feeling, like having an invincible backer. No matter how strong the enemy was, when the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation appeared, all the pressure soon disappeared. The Knight of Judgment and the Bone Dragon King were shocked. The aura that emanated from the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation was too frightening. The fire of all the undead creatures' souls trembled violently, including the strong Knight of Judgment. The thrills made them all want to run away. But they could not run. Austin and Griffin were about to complete the evolution, once it was modified for the next ascension. Then, no one could restrain it in this world. At the same time, all the undead creatures also chose to fight, because if Austin and Griffin's evolution was completed, then everything would be destroyed sooner or later. Long Houchen calmly said, "Knight of Judgment, I have no intention of making you my enemy. As long as you go back and promise not to disturb How Yu's evolution any longer, we will not hurt any of you." The Knight of Judgment coldly said, "If we retreat, we would all be dead anyway. If you think you can stop us with the Imperial weapon, then you're wrong. This land has been covered with darkness and fire, and we are the true masters in this world." As he spoke, the fearful Knight of Judgment raised his great black and purple sword and let out an angry roar. The next moment, the Knight of Judgment was swept up by the dark air below. His aura grew stronger. In front of the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation, he exuded a strong indomitable will. With the help of his subordinates, he stabilized the fire of his soul. The Bone Dragon King also roared and launched an attack once again with the Knight of Judgment towards Long Houchen. Long Houchen had no choice but to fight back, as his words did not work at all. The sealed divine throne of eternity and creation instantly transformed into 13 masses of white light which broke down behind Long Houchen. Time seemed to slow down at this moment. The attack of the Knight of Judgment and the Bone Dragon King also slowed down greatly in this strange time shift. The white light flowed into Long Houchen's body like rivers running towards the sea. The first group of white light fell on Long Houchen's chest and suddenly a huge transparent stone appeared. It was as if a whole round gem had been cut into two parts, one on his chest and the other on his back. The gemstone was nearly half a foot in diameter and it covered most of Long Houchen's chest. When the tessellation was complete, immediately, a brilliant white light spread around, turned into a special metal that covered the front and back of Long Houchen. The metal showed a pattern of the sun, moon, and stars, as well as the imprint of countless strange textures. The second group of white light fell on Long Houchen's head. It turned into a bright white crown with 9 precious stones, respectively shining red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, black, and white, a total of 9 colors of light. The 9 colors shone nobly and exuded an absolute dominance atmosphere. The crown tied Long Houchen's golden hair behind his head, and when it fell on his head, a bright white mask fell down. His eyes turned into 2 golden gems that shone brilliantly. Along with the mask, Long Houchen looked extremely majestic. The white light of the third and fourth groups fell on Long's shoulders, respectively, and the bright white light spread down perfectly with the breastplate necklace. The left shoulder plate was as huge as a dragon's head, and the right shoulder plate was the statue of the 12 wings angels. It was exactly the same as the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation's armrests. The white armor reached all the way up to Long Houchen's arms and hands. It was engraved with a fine pattern of countless creatures. Since there were too many species of living things, it was impossible to see the details of the pattern without a closer look. It was gorgeous and noble. The fifth white light fell on Long Houchen's waist, and his armor was in the shape of fish scales. There was an inscription on each scale. The waist armor spread downward and was derived from the pleated wardress. The wardress seemed to be coiled around the sacred dragon's design into a hovered glittering glow. The 6th and 7th rays fell on Long Houchen's legs respectively. It was embossed with countless plants that covered Long Houchen's legs and feet entirely. Long was now completely enveloped in the armor of eternity. The 8th and 9th rays fell behind him as the eternal card covered his back. Long Houchen's 6 golden wings were gone and replaced by a pair of huge, shiny white wings. The pair of wings were larger than the previous 3 combined. It completely covered Long Houchen's back, and even when folded, they rose higher above him. The 10th ray fell onto Long Houchen's hand. It turned into a huge white and shiny sword. The style of the great sword was very simple, without any ornate decorations. Not even a bit of pattern. But, on its glittering white body, it was shining with 9 colors of light. This was the only weapon that the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation brought to Long Houchen, the sword of eternity. The last 3 lumps of white light hit the huge breastplate gem on Long Houchen's chest and bounced back. While they bounced back, only one mass of white light remained bright white, while the other 2 became 7 colors and turquoise. The 3 beams of light acted as a loyal guard, circled and reciprocated around Long Houchen's body. The whole process was complicated, but it only took a few breaths. This was the imperial weapon, the power of the sealed divine throne of eternity and creation. This video will end here.